AK, welcome, bro. Welcome.
Hello.
Bro, what an interesting end to the season, bro.
It's not really interesting to be honest.
It was interesting for me in a good way, I guess.
Yeah, true.
So basically, for this, it's relatively straightforward. So I'm just gonna have like a tier list, and we're gonna to go through some of the clubs that I have underneath. I wasn't able to like get every like single club I could think of, but I think I covered most of the big ones. So if I didn't, just like let me know. And I have the tier list just ranked from like A to F. So we're just gonna go rank them based off of how well they did this year, like relative to like our expectations for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So first on the list we got AC Milan. They ended the season finishing um, in eighth position, 7 points off the top four. Obviously they lost to Bologna in the final of the Coppa Italia as well. So I guess maybe I should start. Like, what were your expectations for them going into the season, and how would you say they've met or not met that?
We can put them in F, man. Like I'm sorry,
Oh
man.
wow, F.
D or F. Like you can't, have Leao, Pulisic. Like look at those players, bro. If in terms of squad, bro, the second best squad in Serie A, you could argue. And then they finished seventh. They lost to Bologna in the cup final, and in the UCL they lost to Feyenoord, and they had a manager change which amounted to nothing. So like they've had a terrible season.
Uh, no, actually, I can't argue with that. Sorry,
Yeah.
hold on. Okay, I have to like go do something real quick. Do you mind if I just like put it on pause? I'll be back. I apologize. Sorry, I apologize about that. I don't know if he's still there or not, but let's continue in the meantime.
Yeah, you here?
Yeah. Sorry about that. That was my bad. But yeah, no, I mean honestly, yeah, well, like you were saying, like D or F, I can't really argue with that. Like even when you compare what they did to last season, because I always like to give like full perspective. So we can even check right now because I'm actually very curious. So this was like the amount of points that they got compared to like the other season. So even like last year, like finishing a whole 12 points worse, that's like 4 wins. So I don't know if you see that.
Yeah, I'm seeing right now. Oh my days. 63 points, man.
Champion, ole. Gary, who are you a fan of? I'm gonna assume you're either like a Liverpool fan or like a Barca fan. I don't know. Because I'm trying to figure out who we are the champions. Who's the okay. Makes sense. Liverpool. Got you. So AK, you know, one of your loanee fans, but you're the one on loan now.
Shout out, man. Shout out.
But yeah, no, like you said, going through these metrics, like finishing 12 points worse, having like actual good attacking talent. You could even see here they finished like third highest in terms of goals scored. I think for them, like their start to the season was bad. Their end to the season wasn't particularly good either. So I actually wonder like what they're where they go from here. Do I want?
It's not looking good, man.
And I know, and I need Chelsea to be in the. I need Chelsea to be in that freaking Leal sweepskates, bro. Because I saw y'all on HG saying, "Oh, we're talking about Rodrigo." I don't want that. I don't want that bum, bro. Bring Leal to the bridge, bro. That's who I want.
Hey, bro. If he develops properly, it could be a good option. Like, yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I think D for now. We'll see, depending on where everybody else goes. Also, wait, this is the American school system, so there's no E in here either. Hold on. Funny. Next up, we got
To be fair,
Atletico
my college does have an E instead of an F.
and E. That's weird. Well, what grade would that even be? Like a 63?
It's below 60, but
But F is below 60.
nah, instead of an F, they have an E. So anything that's like normally an F, it's an E.
That's interesting. Does that even like? I wonder what that even does for them functionally. Cause it's like,
I don't know, man.
is a C still like 70 for you guys or no?
Like, yeah, pretty much, yeah. Everything else except for F and E is the same as like it normally is.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. And next up, we got Atletico and AK, bro. I'm not gonna lie. If you had asked me this 2 months ago, or 2 months ago, yeah, 2 months ago, it was looking it was looking special, bro. And then they just fell off of a cliff. So they ended up finishing this season in third place, a good 12 points behind league champions, despite being in the title race for like 60% of the season. So what are we saying about them?
They're the average, a C, man. They're the perfect representation of a C. Just like all the hope, and then league they fell off. UCL, I have some sympathy for them. They lost because of the double touch thing, but and the Copa del Rey as well. That second leg performance was horrible against Barcelona, man.
And then this
So
was their year-on-year average. So they got the same amount of points last season as well. And who did they lose to? They lost to Inter last year, right, in the Champions League, or was it Dortmund?
nah, Dortmund,
Oh, it was
Dortmund.
Dortmund. Yeah. Okay. So losing to like a better team, no disrespect, in Real Madrid, finishing on a similar amount of points. I feel like with Atletico, like I don't know, just the way they just fell off after March, it kind of worries me, to be honest, because it
I
really
think
felt like they were keeping up with the big two clubs, and then um they just capitulated. To be honest, like I don't have a good other way of saying it.
I think here's the thing. I mean, they don't have the system and attacking play of Barcelona, nor do they have the individual talent of Real Madrid. They're just the third wheel, man. Like it's a season that you would expect from Atletico Madrid, and what you expect from Atletico Madrid is an average season ultimately.
All right, that's fair. I think C is fair. All right. Next up, we got Barcelona.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah, this is definitely an easy A for me as well. Obviously, their breathtaking attacking play is where you kind of want to start with these dudes. Their ability to just like score in bunches multiple times, like I think it was getting to a point. It was getting to a point where it was like every other game you'd expect them to get at least like three, like just like off rip, and they were. There was a point where they were actually doing that too.
Yeah, I think, they started the season incredibly well. They had that blip, people questioned them, but in 2025 they came back. They they won the league. In my opinion, they won the league quite easily. In my opinion, I think they they were the best team in Spain for the entirety of the season. Um, Copa del Rey, same thing, and the UCL. I think we saw a few of the limitations in that tournament where they lost to Inter, but for a team that at the beginning of the year we said we're dead and buried, Hansi Flick's done a great job. Hansi Flick's done a great job.
Yeah, and I think what was really impressive too is just even when they were going through like that bad spell, like they were still playing well, and they weren't too dramatic to just kind of like change up their philosophy or like um their game management. Like they were still sticking to the same things that was making them successful, and I think especially in like the rise of Lamine Yamal, you could literally like watch him like basically like add on more skills, kind of like an RPG character, like just tacking on like different skills as the season went on as well. I would say probably at Barcelona, the thing to that they probably need to get over is the fatigue factor. Like I think that played a big part in why they were so bad in December. Going into what I think they get like a 2 week winter window right in Spain or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was what say. Sorry about that. But yeah, I think the kind of the winter break happening when it did, so they were able to like recharge themselves. And I think that probably also played a part in why they I don't want to say fell off, but weren't able to see most of the season through, like towards like basically the post international period in March.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Yeah.
But I think for me, what really gets them in the A is how far they went in the Champions League, especially when you think about the fact that I think what this is like the first knockout game they've played since like 2020 or something like that, or 2021, where they got
I
like
think they got to quarterfinals last season, but I felt like that was more like this season it was a lot more convincing the way they played. A lot better football. It's A, I think.
next up we have Bayern Munich, and my God, I think with Bayern Munich is I feel like they were a bit underrated this year, only because I think people were just expecting Company to be so bad at his job that they basically didn't give them any credit whatsoever. And then when they actually did dominate the league, then it just became the well, it's Bayern, and they always do that narrative. That's kind of what it just like turned into.
Yeah, I think they're probably the best Bayern team since no, like they're probably the best Bayern team, like in like probably 2 3 years, I'd say. Like very convincing league title win. Olise probably the best signing of the past summer. I'd give them B because league win. Congrats. I think they lost very early in the German Cup, but again in the Champions League again, like disappointing. I can't lie. Like
But to be fair,
I,
they, I do think they played well against Inter. Though I think it was just like, at least on the balance of play. And obviously, they did that without Musiala, but
I think what was disappointing is that they didn't make it into the top eight. Like
true.
they should have been in the top eight, but then they lost to Feyenoord 3-0, and that basically put them into playoffs position. So like it's just I'd give it a B. I think they could be better.
That's fair. That's fair. That is a good point. They definitely could have, because yeah, you said they lost to PSV. They lost to Aston Villa as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Who else did they lose to in the league phase? Or was it just those two? But I mean, I think what's impressed me here is when I'm looking at their year-over-year stuff is like this is about as good as they've been in the league since like um in this entire decade, like 80. So like I guess it's a little bit of credit in that regard, but I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
like you said, you're judged mostly in the Champions League, and you know while like I do think they played well against Inter, but quarterfinal still a quarterfinal, and like you said, they probably wouldn't have even have been there if they had done what they needed to do in the league phase. So yeah, I'll probably put them. So yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to put them in B because of that. Yeah, you can ignore a lot of the smaller teams. So we're just going to go into Dortmund next.
Dortmund, I'll put D as well. Like, bro, like here's the first thing. You appoint a guy who married his own cousin as a coach. You make him coach the team. You fire him, and you sign Niko Kovac, who was bad. They have had a good like end to the season. I'll give them that, but just like not a great team. I can't even lie. Just not a great team.
But to be fair, I feel like D might be a bit harsh only because unlike
Nice.
Milan,
Probably C. Probably C then.
it's weird because then I also don't think they should be with Atletico either. But as weird because Atletico had like a great start and then tailed off really bad like post February, and then Dortmund were like horrendous, and they were able to rally to get top four. Because like because I think with Milan is like obviously they didn't even like come anywhere near close to getting top four, and did they make? I don't think they made it past the league phase either, did they?
Yeah, they got into playoffs and then they lost to Feyenoord in those playoffs.
Oh yeah. So yeah, exactly. So I agree. So yeah, I think C. I think I'm fine with C for now. Um, Inter. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Inter are one of those dudes that like the grade is really pending right now because it definitely depends on what they do on Saturday.
I'd say A if they win the UCL, C if they don't.
Um, not gonna lie, I'm a bit harsher than you. Even if they win the UCL, I'm probably still gonna give them a B, and I'd definitely give them like a C if they don't. Like
Yeah.
because my beef with Inter is like because I mean I don't know if you saw because I didn't make a video about this yesterday. Is they are the best team in this league
Yeah,
by
yeah,
like,
yeah.
by like a good margin. I'd say like if if whoever seconds at like an 80, like they're at least like an 85, like minimum. So that's like a 5 point gap. And not only could they not win the league against a Napoli team that really and truly has no business even being in that conversation, especially when you look at some of the attacking talent, but like the way they lost to too, like basically like post like February, like they've not had like that same consistency that they're kind of known for. And then I brought this up kind of yesterday, but I didn't really have a chance to really talk about it. The thing that I found really interesting is like most of the games that they drop points in, right, in the league, like whether it was to lose or to draw the game, was from goals that they conceded in like the last like 15 minutes. Like so
Yeah, yeah.
so it speaks to them not being able to see out results as consistently as you would like. And I did think part of that was just due to like an age thing. They are like one of the older teams among like the elite clubs. So
That is true. I think, yeah, it depends on how they do the UCL. The league, they were disappointing not winning it, especially losing it to the team that they did lose it to. And in the cup, again, losing to Jovic, like, that's not great.
yeah, getting dunked on by Jovic is tough.
I'll probably give them C for now.
That's fair. I'm fine with that. And then we can go higher or lower depending on what they do. Next up, we have Juventus, who were able to get a Champions League spot. Obviously, it was very touch and go. They were the draw kings, like for a majority of the season. My definitely do think when they picked up Kolomowani, especially like that first month he was there, he was cooking. He was cooking heavily for them. Um, Throughout the season, I just feel like they um, haven't managed to really maintain any like good level of consistency. Although I do think them, even though we make for them for drawing, them not losing until January is probably was what it was able to get them top four in the first place. But just the type of hype that Mata came in on, um, you definitely would have expected them to do more this season. And it's kind of crazy because like based off of the year over year, like this is this is literally the worst they've finished. This is the least amount of points they've gotten since they've um for the last 15 years. So
Yeah, I mean, Mota, the hype, but Allegri was that guy, and they didn't respect him enough. I would say C or D, man. Like,
yeah, I know. Yeah, I agree. Like I think it's there. If it wasn't for the fact that they were able to scrape Champions League in the end, you definitely have to look at that. And I think what's interesting with them is how good they have been defensively. Like having the second best defense in the league, but like that attack, man, like you're not gonna do anything being seventh in the league in terms of being able to put the ball in the back of the net. Um, so I definitely think that's probably where they really need to strengthen this summer is get a striker that can actually like fit the system that they want, right? Because you have someone like Vlahovic who's like a poor man. Would you consider him to be like a poor man's Erling Haaland, or am I being a bit harsh?
I don't rate him at all, man. Like, he's just clunky as a finisher. He's not effective. He's not, clinical. He's just like, I think the striker that they did get, Kolo Muani, has been far better than him in the half season that he played.
Like Aguero to know what team you support.
I'm a Liverpool fan on loan.
I'm on loan from what?
On loan from a certain team.
No, a certain team is crazy. Are they on? Is that certain team on this list? Oh, they are on this list. Don't worry,
Yeah.
we'll get to talk. We'll get to talk about them. But yeah, I know you're right, and I think because I think Kolomwani is probably going to go back to PSG. I don't know if Juve are going to like actually end up buying him or he's going to go somewhere else. But I definitely think they need to bring in another striker, especially if they're not going to do that. And I think my biggest beef with them is like statistically is this right here. Okay, what do you think this is a stat for?
Is that's big chances, isn't it?
Yeah, like they're freaking 40 off of the actual, like 40 off of top two, bro.
It's-
And if you're gonna do that, like you need to have clutch goal scorers, which they don't have. And speaking of that, how did Napoli win this league, bro? I know we're gonna get to that, but my goodness,
McTominay might
not
just be the greatest box crasher of all time.
Inter, bro. You better win that UCL, bro. Damn. That's all I gotta say on that. But yeah, so Juve, honestly, I probably put them in D because I do think like they had way too much hype for the poor trash that they ended up with. And when you consider that like this is the lowest amount of points they've gotten for like 15 years, they should be ashamed of themselves, in my opinion. All right. Next up, we have Olympic Lyon. If I remember correctly, did they start off the season bad, or was that, or am I
They,
just, or am I conflating this with last year?
I think, I think they started out the season like steady, like they were
Because
like
there was,
around where you expected them to be.
because there was a point where like they were definitely like chasing top four, and my biggest beef with them is just absolute fraudulence, bro. Like
The Europa League game really ended like the entire
yeah,
season.
exactly. Like they basically, I think that game just shattered their confidence, which I mean I can't blame them. Choking to Man United would do that to anybody. Um, but you kind of look at the fact that now they have to sell some of their players, and I think on the pitch, like just strictly on field play, they're probably like not been. There's probably not been that bad of a season, like in a vacuum. But when you consider like what was riding on them this year for them to do, just the way they ended up going out in the end is just beyond disappointing. Obviously, you have Fonseca getting banned for like 8 months or whatever. Um, Ryan Cherky has been like a consistent performer for them. I know you're a big supporter of that,
Shout out to him, man.
which I mean I like him too. Like, I definitely like what I've seen um, when I've watched them a little bit. I think probably the biggest thing with Leon is just probably like there's really nothing about them that's like
It's
amazing for
just
them to lean on.
it's just an average team. Like they have some good players here and there. You have Cherky, Fofana, guys like that. But it's just an average team having an average season. Like nothing special about them personally.
That's fair. I feel like C. I feel like I'd probably put them C, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I
well, you
agree.
kind of have to. But I'd probably have to put them F just because like they're getting relegated if they don't fucking sell their players.
Nah, I think on field play they have to be
Yeah,
C.
yeah, no, on field, yeah, but because my thing is, AK is like they knew all of this back in the like November,
That is true. That is true.
and then like if it was, it'd be one thing if they just were like consistently getting results and they just happened to finish sixth, but like AK, they had so many chances to make Champions League, and
True,
they,
true.
they frauded the Europa League. What did they do for like their last five matches? Didn't they like
They like lost like three of the first last four or something. I think.
yeah they lost three of their last five. So like knowing what is right on the season, yeah, like I think I have to just put them out. But yeah, so like on field just BC, but like given
Yeah.
everything in context, yeah. Next up we have Los Blancos Real Madrid.
So are we doing this based on expectation of what was supposed to happen and what happened, or just like as a team? Because as a team, they're C, in my opinion, as a team. But expectation wise, I'd be hard pressed not to put them in either D or F.
See, I get what you're saying. I think the only thing I would say to counter that is one, we didn't anticipate how good Barcelona would be this year. And the only reason I say that is because like if Barcelona were like what's it called? Were as average as they were last year, Madrid probably still just get La Liga like by default. Um but obviously, they had 95 points last year, so way off of that. But even then, I think the 95 was more of them like I think last year was more of an overperformance by them in the league than like a true reflection of how good they were last year. I don't know if you would agree with that or not.
No, I think defensively they overperformed by a lot. I think.
That's fair. I would say that my thing with Madrid is if we were including like the upstairs upper management in this, yeah, it would definitely have to be an F because a lot of what they were struggling with was things that were fixable that Paris just decided not to fix. Like You had freaking Rudiger playing on one knee for like the entire season. You have Chouameni running center back minutes, which I'll be honest, I don't think I ever want to see Chouameni at center back ever again, like in life, because bro can't do that. Your right back died in like what, October?
I
When
think
it started
so.
off
I
injury?
think so. Like
Yeah,
not
he
October. Yeah,
was it
September.
earlier than that?
September, I think.
Wow. Okay, so he was out since September, and you had to run Lucas Vasquez. You didn't like get any replacements for any of these dudes. You didn't replace Cruz either. So I would say, based off of how the incompetence of like the upper management, I feel like I'd give them C. But then when you factor in like the expectations that we all initially had going into the season, yeah, it's looking bad. But I would also maybe argue that maybe that was also just us being overzealous and not because some of those things were already there. Like Rudiger has been injured this entire year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they didn't replace Cruz this entire year. And we obviously wouldn't have foreseen Lucas Vasquez having to play right back the entire year either. So that's where I'm kind of at a toss up is like how much of this is just like how much of the stuff that's in their control on the field should we be annoyed at them for, and how much of it is just like Paris, like do your fucking job.
I think, bro, here's the thing. At the end of the day, Perez has his faults. Ancelotti has his faults.
Oh, we know.
The players, I think, at the end of the day, if you're a player, it's like if you're losing every week as being part of Real Madrid, you're not playing good football, you're not dominating games. Psychologically, already, you're not like in tune, especially when you're viewing your latest rivals winning like 4-0, 5-0 every game, and you're struggling and relying on last minute goals. Like the players probably I blame the least. I think still like it's D because let's be real, but when this team bought Kylian Mbappe, the expectation was La Liga, UCL, and the potential treble. Like that's what the expectation was, and to not finish with a single trophy is just like it's not looking good. It didn't look good at all.
That's fair. That's fair. And I think, yeah, like even despite everything I said, especially like losing out Champions League to Arsenal, getting like swept by your rivals, and I think what in outside of like the first game, Barca like no Real Madrid scored first every single other time, right?
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
And what did Barca get? So Barca got 4 goals in the first game. They got 5 in the second. I know they got fourth like a couple weeks ago. And then
It
did
went
they get
four,
did they get
four in
4
the
in the
first, 5 in the second, 3 in the Copa del Rey final, and 4 in the last of
okay?
Clasico.
And so yes, they averaged 4 goals on your head too. Yeah, so yeah, it has to be a D, but like trash, terrible.
Yeah,
Um, like you said, it's more so on the upper management, but hey, it is what it is. Um,
wait, what happened?
the next team, that's what happened.
What is the next team?
Oh, you don't see it on the screen?
No,
My bad, my
no.
bad. So before we roast them, and believe me, okay, we are going to say some very bad things about this team. Um, Shout out to them because they beat a team that I needed them to beat today. So
Oh, I know who you're talking about now.
yeah. So oh my gosh, Manchester United, the Red Devils. Wow, just what can I say? Okay, just
Bro, it's still a rating lower than F. Like, bro, there has to be like a lower than F, just not applicable, ungraded. Just like,
incomplete. Yeah, like the grade. You have to repeat the grade. Like
yeah. If bro, like this is such a bad season. Just like everything that's gone on the field, off the field, players, managers, just an it's like a terrible, terrible season.
I'm actually okay. So no, you know what really got me is the fact that they haven't won 2 games in a row in the Prem, bro. This year, that is actually insane. Like, that is genuinely insane. I think the only thing that's gonna keep me from putting them in the incomplete is the fact that they actually made the Europa League final in the first place. So I think F. So that's the only reason. That's the only thing keep putting them in F. AK. I'm not gonna lie, but
Boy, they're F, man. Like even if they lost the final to Spurs, man.
yeah, they really did that. That's crazy, bro. Like they really did that, bro. And you know what's funny too is like at no point did they look like they were poised to do anything.
Yeah.
Like they lost to City in the Community Shield. They won their first game, and it was actually like last minute goal, and then they lost to Brighton and Liverpool. They beat Southampton, and then pretty much like from September on, like yeah, it just looks, bro. There was a point in the season where they won like one game in like a month and a half. Like it is getting bad, bro. Like, and then, AK, you know what I find funny too is if you look at their year over year comparisons, like so from 2 seasons ago to last season, they fell by 15 points, and then from the last season to this season, they fell by a further 18. So just 2 years ago, they had 33 more points than they do right now.
Yeah, it's not looking good at all. Yeah, F, man. Like I don't know what else to say.
It's trash, man. Just absolute. Like you gotta listen. Like they just gotta be like my dog ate my homework or something. Like they can't. Like you see, they put in the type of report where like I gotta call the parents, and ask
Yeah. It's
like
just like
is everything is
is there
everything good at
something
home?
wrong with your son? Like what?
Yeah, like is everything good at home? Like does your son eat the proper nutrients? Like that's
Yeah.
the kind of grade that they need right now.
Yeah. I need to
Speaking
leave
of,
this next one. So
hmm?
yeah, I need to leave after this next one.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad that I got this next one in there. Then,
Yeah.
um, your parent club. You know what I find funny about your parent club, AK, is yo,
Yes.
the Zerbi is a fraud, bro. Because bro really made it sound like they were about to do something, and then from like November on, they just like, bro, they just died. Like it was over.
Yeah. I'd give it a C to be honest. Like a second place in Liga. Okay, you didn't compete with PSG, but like you never would compete with PSG. Second place.
Wait,
Some
74
players.
goals. 74 that's a
Yeah,
lot of goals. I think
yeah.
the
Some
40.
players played well. The guy who must not be named won
Well,
Golden Boot.
I just call him Chris Brown, to be honest.
Yeah. He won Golden Boot. There are some signings that definitely played well, like Guiri, for example. I give it a C, man. Like as much as like I'm on loan from that club for morality reasons more than anything.
Yeah. Like it's not like you're
Uh,
on them because they're like the worst
y-
club ever. So.
yeah, they're C, man. It's not. It's better. It's an okay season
Wait,
compared to
I'm
the.
curious. As a league on merchant, bro, what's up with this dude? 'Cause I thought this guy was supposed to be like crazy good, like as a young. I thought he was one of those young
Ooh,
players. This mean Guerri guy.
yeah, like he was good at youth level, but then like how there's players that they're good at youth level, but they're not like necessarily like as good in senior level. I think he's that type of player. Like he's good right now. Like he's playing really well right now. But I just think like I think there's some traits that he's not particularly quick for a striker. And when you don't have that hold up play, when you're not that quick, like I mean he's like one of those number nines and number tens merged together. Like
Man, you hate to see it, bro. And because all I remember is bro was like on FIFA 19 career mode, bro was cracked, bro.
he was supposed to be the next Benzema, like the way he was playing, but like what happened.
That's interesting. But all right, so you said a C for Marseille. All right, well, thanks for
Okay, but
helping me out for a little bit. I'll just bang out the rest of these.
okay, but see you in a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Appreciate it. I guess I'm going to continue off here. So next up, we have Manchester City. And I think for City, I'm probably gonna like put them. Or we're gonna put them at a D. Um, just because, obviously, like, given they have like probably one of the highest standards, like out of all the teams that are on here. Um, they obviously like were disappointing in the league, generally speaking. Like their year over year comparisons, it is like actually hilarious to look at. Like this is the worst. This is like the second worst results points wise that they've done in 15 years. Um, like a minus 20 from just the last season. You know, they had that spell where they didn't win like a single game in like the month of like October or whatever. They got. Oh, what's up, Reven? Nice to see you, bro. Like they had like that. They had that spell in October that I was talking about. They lost to. They pretty much choked the top 8 spot in the Champions League to PSG after being up like 2-0. You know, they obviously lost to Crystal Palace in the FA Cup final as well. So they scraped top 4. Couldn't even finish above Arsenal, who literally had like a gajillion injuries. Um, so yeah, you combine all of those things together. The only reason I'm not putting them at F is it's honestly because they made top 4. That's really it. Like outside of that, like I don't really have like I don't have any reasons to give them any type of praise whatsoever. If I were to be, completely honest. But next up, we got um, Monaco, and I feel like Monaco are very similar to Marseille in the sense that at a point in the season, like they looked like they were going to challenge PSG, which they ended up not doing. I think for them, like, offensively they were okay. Defensively, they were pretty good. Um, they were able to create a lot of big chances. They were able to get a lot of touches in the opposition box. So like they hit a lot of the key attacking metrics that you would want, and even defensively, their metrics look really good too. Like they're only the fourth highest in terms of XG conceded, second in terms of interceptions, and first in terms of tackles. So that shows how hardworking of a team they are, and even first in terms of high pressing as well. So that tells me that like when it comes to kind of why they faltered, it had more to do with like just not showing up in like those critical games, and not getting a result in isolated games like when they needed to, as opposed to them just having like a structural problem that like kind of like just like permeated throughout the team. Obviously, 61 points for like their year over year comparisons. Like 61 points isn't the best. Like when you compare it to what they've been doing, it's like slightly below their average for the last like couple of years. I think the biggest thing that they needed to address, which they finally did, was getting in a striker. Like I think it says a lot that this Mika Bareth guy came in January and is their top goal scorer by almost double the amount of goals. Like Breel Bolo, like bro was just not cutting the mustard, in all honesty. And even when you look at their XG, like I said, like they heavily downplayed underperformed in terms of like their XG, and I think most of that was due to inadequate help in the striking in the attacking options. So that's probably what they would need to look at um, throughout the summer. So for them, I'm probably going to put them, and even to the only reason I probably give them like a C is because they did pretty well in the Champions League, all things considered. Um, Obviously, I think they ended up losing to Benfica in the playoffs. So, but they at least did well enough to make it into the playoff phase in the first place. So, yeah, I'll probably give them a C because of that. Next up, we have Napoli, who obviously just won the Italian league. I think the thing with them is obviously they were not expected to. They were not expected to really challenge. Like their main thing that they were looking to do this year was just recover from like finishing 10th. So when you look at it from like that standpoint, um, it's obviously gonna be an A, considering what they were able to do. I think the thing that I find funny about them is how weak they are offensively. Like 59 goals, not even get 60, and you're the league champion is kind of insane. But it also just speaks to how well they played defensively. Big shout out to their trio of McTominay, Gilmore, and Gisa, especially McTominay and Ngisa. And Ngisa being like one of the better defensive mids in the league in terms of like work rate and how much action he gets into. McTominay being, like AK said earlier, an elite box crasher. Shout out to Lukaku as well for putting up like a double-digit goals and assist season. So he stepped up massively in that sense, especially when you consider the fact that they lost Kvaratskhelia in the middle of the season in January. One of, if not their best creative player, to be able to still kind of ride the boat and ultimately get the title is the thing that probably matters the most to them, even though I don't think they're going to be doing that again next season. But hey, that doesn't really matter. So I'm probably going to give them an A. Next up, we have PSG. Obviously, like I said, this live stream is before the Champions League final. I'm still probably going to give them an A just because I think, right, like when you really think about what they went through this season in terms of, losing Mbappe, obviously, getting a lot younger when you compare them to the Messi, Mbappe, Neymar days. And when you could think about the kind of different failures that they went through in the Champions League in the time span, right? Like losing to Real Madrid in the manner that they did in 2022. Obviously Neymar being injured and Neymar and Mbappe kind of also coming back from injury against Bayern in 2023 and not really offering much resistance. Losing to an average Dortmund team, if I were to be completely honest, and last year as well. Right, you think about all those things. You think about the fact that no one really had them making a Champions League final this year. The fact that they had easily, in my opinion, the hardest Champions League fixtures in the league phase as well. And there was a point where like it looked like they were not going to make the knockout rounds. To navigate through that adversity, especially when you consider how young they are, I think it easily has to be a season, regardless of what happens in the final. But obviously, if they win the final, then that's kind of just gonna skyrocket them uh, even more. Okay, next up, I don't even know this team's in here. We have Everton, and to be honest, to be fair with them, I feel like the thing that I would give credit to Everton for is how well they've been, especially since David Moyes has been back. I'd be very interested to see what his record at Everton was for this season specifically, because I feel like ever since he's gone in, he's looked really good. So yeah, so he's played 19 matches in the league, and they've won 8, they drew 7, only lost 4. And if you look at kind of like the win rate that they have, that's kind of on pace for like a Europa League team. And obviously, that's only half. He only came in like half the season, so you're not going to give him full credit for that. But when you compare kind of where they were at, when Sean Dyche left them, and it looked like they were going to be dragged into this relegation battle, you have to give credit for how well they've played to kind of avoid that. I'm crying yesterday. We haven't even gone to our club yet. We'll talk about Chelsea when we get there. Also, if you want to join, the StreamYard link is on the first comment. I don't know how to pin it, but yeah, I'll probably speed this up a little bit. So I'm going to put Everton out of C. Next up, we got Roma, and I feel like Roma are very similar to Everton in the sense of like where they were at prior to the new manager coming in, versus what they've ended up doing this year. So Roma, obviously they ended up finishing 5th this year in the table, and primarily that has, again, similar to Napoli, is mostly due to how good they were defensively, attacking wise. Like they were average in terms of the amount of goals that they scored. Even when you kind of look at like their big chances and like their XG and stuff, it has them at slightly above average. Which I do find a bit funny. And you kind of look at what they've done to be as good as they are defensively, and seems like they're much more of like a type of team that can be aggressive when they need to be, while also holding like a more compact shape when the time calls for it as well. Obviously, they, compared to last season, I'd be curious to see where they were at last year. If I were to pull this up. All right, so actually, yeah, they've done particularly well for themselves. Like they are at a +6 compared to what they've done for the last 3 seasons, which is even more impressive when you consider that Ranieri came in like in November and completely turned these guys around as well. And now they're going to be in the Europa League, so hopefully we'll see if they can actually like do something in it this time. So I'll probably give them a B, all things considered. Next up, we have Sevilla, who have been pretty crap for the last couple of years, to be honest. Obviously, like they're well regarded as one of the perennial Europa League teams. The season they ended up finishing 17th, only 1 point above the relegation zone. However, they're not really in like danger of getting relegated because like they were basically already safe. But as you can see, only winning 1 in their last 5. There's just so many things that's up with them, to be honest with you. Luka Bacchio has definitely been a bright spot for them this year. And then when you kind of just like look at what they've done, relative to the other leagues. Like they're below average in offense. They're below average on defense. They and like all their attacking metrics point towards them being below average as well, right? So not particularly great in that respect. But you can kind of see like they do work hard, and like you can kind of see that in like the possession one, and the fact that they're top 6 in that, and obviously first in terms of interceptions. So it's not really like a lack of trying for them, I guess. Well, when you just kind of look at some of the players on this team, it doesn't really scream the likes of like an Ava Benega or Kevin. Oh my gosh, I forgot his name. Is it Bichio? No, Grimero. I don't know why I said Pacino. I don't know where I got that from. But obviously, you look at these players now; they're not of the same quality. And I think what's really worrying for them is the fact that this message just keeps going down. So obviously, 2 years ago was really the start of the hard decline in that respect, and the decline last year, and then they had such a bad end to the season that they ended up finishing in the same spot. So I think just because they've been this bad for a while now, there's like nothing new. I'd probably put them. That's probably what save them for putting them in F. I put them in D. Next up we got Tottenham, and Tottenham are a really good case study for how well a trophy should boost your season, because obviously they've been crap in the league. Part of that is due to the amount of injuries that they suffered, but ultimately losing 22 freaking games, losing twice as many games as you've won is insane. Like I don't know, there's really no other way to put it, to be honest. And based off of that, they should really be at like an F minus. But obviously, they won the Europa League. They went up against some good teams to do it as well. So I feel like the C is appropriate because they are going to be in the Champions League next year. But my goodness, bro, my goodness, just wow. I'm actually speechless, to be honest. I don't even know what to say about them. Okay, next up we have Valencia CF. See, Valencia have been doing this thing for a while now where they act like they're going to get relegated and then they kind of just don't. So, again, I think when it comes to doing these report cards, you have to base it off of the relative expectations of that season, of that team, for what they've shown you in the last couple of years. Because obviously Valencia are generally been like a Champions League club, but that's not who they've been for the last couple of years. I don't know. I feel like similar to Sevilla, is they're fairly average offensively, not where you want to be defensively. Only 8 clean sheets. Their attacking metrics aren't particularly great. Their defensive metrics are better, but I also think, but it's one of those things too. When it comes to having defensive metrics, you have to question how much of this is how good they are defending, and how much of it is just because they're not seeing that much of the ball anyway. So when you look at it from that point of view, they are a low possession team, so obviously is going to be doing more defending by default, based on their year-over-year stuff. This is a route, where they've been for this entire decade. So obviously it's still not good enough and not where they'd want to be. At least not where the fans would want to be. But I mean, what more can I really say? They've been showing that this is who they are for years now. So I'm not gonna act shocked. So I'd probably put them in D for that same reason, same as Sevilla. Next up, we have Arsenal, who, finished second in the league. I mean, their struggles have been well documented in terms of not being able to score and not being able to break down teams as easily as they would like. I mean, to be fair, though, I do think the amount of injuries that they've suffered and how key those injuries have been has played a bigger role than what people would like to give them. And again, I apologize for the interruption. Honestly, I think I'm just gonna have to go. So I'm gonna have to just bang out the rest of these and give like quick reasons for why I have them where I have them. Arsenal, I'm gonna put them at a B. Despite the regression in the league, I think the fact that they were able to actually make the semifinal, given the amount of injuries that they went through, I feel like a B is appropriate, but maybe I'm being too nice to them. Chelsea, I'm going to put them at a C for now because they were able to make Champions League, but if they win the Conference League, then I'll probably put them at a B. But at Liverpool, I'm going to put them at an A because obviously they lost Klopp. They were still able to win the league, which is not what a lot of people were expecting. So, yeah, that's going to be my final ranking for the season. Ugh.